All right, hello. It is pretty much officially winter here in northern Wisconsin, and this time every year, whether it's fall or winter, I like to make bone broth. It's just a really easy thing to make, especially if you gather your ingredients. It's easy to throw together, and then you have this really amazing nutritious broth that you can use as a base for soups, cooking rice in it. It's actually how I get my son to have some good nutrition in him, is I cook his rice in bone broth. So a little mom tip there. And yeah, it can save you a lot of money too, because bone broth in the store is pretty expensive. So what I'd like to do with you today is to go over my recipe and how to make a really delicious beef bone broth. I got pictures and videos of the process as I was making it, so I'm going to share that with you today and you'll get to see that. First, I like to save all my veggie scraps. Well, not all of them, but certain ones. So I have a really big freezer bag that I keep in the freezer, and as I'm cooking, I like to save my onion skins, I save celery ends, I save little carrot ends, I save leeks, and I'll save fennel. Those are my main vegetables that I like to save as scraps, and I'll just keep adding them to this bag in the freezer. And when my bag gets full, then I know it's about time to make some broth. Also on hand, as I come across it, I like to get beef bones from local producers, or organic bones from your local deli or local co-op, wherever you can find local bones, your farmer's market. They need to be organic and grass-fed. For my standards personally, that's the best. And it's good to get a mix of marrow bones and knuckle bones. You want the marrow bones for obviously the really good marrow inside, and then the knuckle bones is what's going to give you the good collagen in your beef bone broth. So you need anywhere from 4 to 6 pounds, maybe a little bit more. It kind of just depends how big your pot is that you're going to be making your beef bone broth in. But yeah, plan for like 4 to 6, 7 or 8 pounds of bones. And I like to just get them as I see them, come across them, and keep them in the freezer as well. So when my scraps fill up and I've got enough bones, it's just time to make bone broth, and the process is really easy. So the first step is to roast the bones. You'll take them out of the package. I put them on a pan with just a light layer of oil, so that they don't get super stuck to the pan. And then I add some salt and pepper to those bones, and I put them in the oven at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And they're not done after that, so keep your oven on. Take them out after 20 minutes, and then you're going to add a roughly chopped onion to it and some thyme. At least that's what I like to do. So, and then I put it back in the oven for another 20 minutes. So you're roasting the bones for a total of 40 minutes. And when it comes out, then it'll be ready to add to your big pot. So you're gonna get the biggest pot that you have in your kitchen. For me, it is my canning pot, and it's a relatively small canning pot, so I have it on my list to get a bigger one and make even bigger batches of broth, but this works. So you're gonna fill your pot halfway with water, and bring it up to a boil. And then when that's boiling, you're gonna add your bones and all the onions and thyme. So pretty much everything you had in the oven on that pan, you're gonna add it all into the pot, as well as your bag of veggie scraps. And now there's some other additions that you can add to your bone broth, and this is where recipes can get kind of fun, and you can add various things to make it flavored the way that you like. what I like to add are carrots. If I don't have enough celery, which usually I have enough celery in my veggie scraps, I'm not gonna add celery, but if I didn't have celery in my veggie scraps, I would absolutely add almost maybe a whole bunch of celery. And then I would add a whole bunch of carrots. I also like to add turmeric root, but I didn't have any this time. I like to add bay leaf and some kind of seaweed, whether kombu or dulse. So I like to add those. I like to add rosemary. And when I lived in California, I would add the bay leaf and the rosemary fresh, which was such a treat. I don't have it fresh anymore, so I just add dried, and the bone broth tastes just fine. I also like to add 1 tablespoon of salt, a tablespoon or so of whole peppercorns, and it's up to you whether you'd like to add apple cider vinegar or lemon juice. Some kind of acid is helpful in there to help with the bones kind of breaking down a little bit over the simmering time. So I chose to do lemon juice. And you can really, the sky's the limit with what you want to add in terms of spices and other vegetables. But I find keeping it simple is pretty great, and I love the taste of the bay, rosemary, and the thyme together. So after you add all those additions, the bones and scraps, your water level is going to go up, and then you're just going to want to, if there's still more space, fill the rest of the pot with boiling water and put the lid on and let it simmer. You're going to let your bone broth simmer for 24 to 36 hours. So quite a long time. And if you need to, you can definitely turn it off for a period of time while you go out of the house, grocery shop, whatever, or when you're sleeping at night. And then you can turn it back on in the morning. It's totally fine. I've done that all the time. So just try to get 24 to 36 hours in. And then you're gonna wanna strain it while it's still warm. And you'll strain it into another big pot if you have one. It's easier, I'll tell you why in a minute, rather than straining into jars. But you'll strain it into a big pot and make sure to press on the veggies to get some more of the juice out. And the veggies are gonna be really soft at this point. So I mean, you could eat them if you wanted to. I put them either in the compost, or now that we have chickens, I give them to the chickens, and the chickens absolutely love them. So you're gonna strain it, and then you're gonna allow it to cool. So you do wanna strain it while it's warm, and then you're allowing the strained mixture to cool in your big pot. And what that's going to do is, you can even put it in the fridge if you want. What that's gonna do is create a thin layer of the beef fat on top. And then what you want to do after the fat layer is solid on top, kind of break that up gently and put that into a separate jar. And that's going to be some good cooking fat for you. You'll want to refrigerate it. Don't make my mistake and leave it out, because it does have some of the bone broth moisture in it inherently, and it will mold pretty easily. So keep it in the refrigerator. Use it up within a week or two. It's great for cooking. It's full of flavor. And then you'd be ready to jar your bone broth. So I like to jar it in clean mason jars, and I go through it pretty quickly. So in the past I have frozen some, but our freezer space, I'm learning as a homesteader, is pretty precious. So you can pressure can bone broth. I've never done it, but maybe next time I make a bigger batch in a bigger pot, I will definitely be pressure canning some bone broth. But for this time around, what I did is I just filled the jars, and we honestly go through the stuff. So we went through it, I think, within a couple weeks. But super delicious, nutritious, saves you money. And like I said, we add it to our soups and I cook grains with it. You can also enjoy a nice warm cup of bone broth in the morning or before bed. I personally don't like to sip on bone broth. I much prefer tea, but my son likes sipping on it. He really does like the broth. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this inspires you to make your own homemade bone broth. I love beef bone broth, and when you make it yourself, you just get to experience the magic of everything that goes in it. And yeah, happy fall, happy winter, happy bone broth making. Thank you.